The first time Jonas saw her, she was standing by the docking bay, chained to a rusted pillar like some forgotten relic from a bygone era. Not exactly the grand introduction anyone hopes for when meeting an alien warrior queen, but there it was. Long ears poked through tangled black hair, and her eyes flicked over the crowd like a hawk trapped in a cage. "Slave," someone muttered nearby, as if that explained everything. Jonas, who had spent half his life salvaging broken tech and the other half avoiding trouble, wasn't convinced. Slaves didn't glare with that much attitude. He glanced at the sign flashing above the docking bay. Orbital Nexus. The last stop before nowhere. If nowhere was a galaxy-sized junkyard where the lost and desperate gathered, then maybe that explained the chains. Jonas adjusted the strap of his tool belt and gave a half-hearted cough. "Hey, don't look at me. I'm just here for the droids that barely work, not to judge life choices." The alien woman didn't respond, but the faintest twitch of her lips hinted she'd heard him. Jonas knew better than to expect kindness. The last time he tried to make small talk with a machine gun-wielding bounty hunter, he ended up learning new and creative ways to say oops. Still, there was something magnetic about her, like she was a storm barely contained beneath that quiet exterior. His curiosity got the better of him. He sidled closer, trying not to trip over the uneven metal plates that littered the floor. "So, what's your story? Besides the obvious, I'm chained up and probably dangerous part." She lifted a brow. "You really want to know? You might regret it." Jonas laughed, the sound echoing off the metal walls. "Regret is my middle name." "Well, not officially. That would be Walter, but regret sounds cooler." The woman's eyes glinted with something unreadable. "Names don't matter much when you're treated like property." "Fair point," Jonas said, rubbing the back of his neck. "So, what are you? Rumor has it you're some kind of vampire. And if that's true, I hope you're at least the glamorous kind with a killer soundtrack." She snorted. "If I had a soundtrack, it would probably be more doom metal than glam rock." Jonas grinned. "I like your style. So, vampire or warrior or both? Because honestly, I've heard worse urban legends around here, like the one about the space squid that's actually just a guy in a bad suit." Her smile was sharper this time. "More warrior than vampire. But don't expect me to sparkle in sunlight." He shook his head. "Good, because I'm allergic to glitter." Their banter was interrupted by the screech of engines overhead and a blaring announcement that the Imperial Patrol was making rounds. Jonas felt the familiar prickle of danger. "Well, this is my cue to pretend I'm invisible. Spoiler alert, I'm terrible at it." The woman tilted her head. "You're not invisible. Neither am I. But together, maybe we can be dangerous." Jonas raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous, huh? I usually settle for mildly annoying." "Beginner's level," she said dryly. "But you might surprise me." As the patrol shadow passed over the station, Jonas glanced back at her chains. "You know, I'm not great at breaking into high-security prisons, but I'm pretty good at breaking things that aren't supposed to break. Like droids. Or maybe these chains." She looked at him as if weighing a decision. "If you break my chains, you become my partner. Are you ready for that kind of trouble?" Jonas grinned, the kind of grin that meant he was already in deeper than he wanted to admit. "Trouble's kind of my business. Besides, I'm running low on boring days." The moment stretched, charged with the unspoken promise of chaos and maybe something resembling hope. Around them, the station hummed with the usual clatter, voices trading rumors, distant blaster shots, and the steady pulse of a galaxy that never slept. Somewhere in the mix, two unlikely allies were about to rewrite their destinies, or at least cause a lot of trouble trying. Jonas tugged at the first chain, testing its resistance. "You ever think about how ridiculous this whole slave thing is? I mean, you look like you could snap a starship in half with those hands." She smiled, a brief, rare light in a world that usually offered none. "Maybe that's why they chained me. Fear makes people do strange things." "Fear's a lousy motivator. I mean, I'm scared of space rats and they barely do anything." She laughed, low and genuine, the kind of sound that made Jonas forget how many times he'd been nearly vaporized this week. "Space rats? That's adorable. Hey, don't knock it. One of those little guys took a chunk out of my ankle last week. Almost lost a shoe." Their laughter faded as the patrol's alarms grew louder. Jonas glanced around, already calculating escape routes. So what's the plan? Because sitting here chained up isn't exactly winning us friends. First, you break the chains. Then we see if your talent for breaking things extends to Imperial tech. Jonas smirked. If I pull this off, do I get to keep the title of most dangerous partner? She met his gaze steadily. If you survive, maybe. With that, the space station's neon lights flickered, casting long shadows over two figures bound by fate in a shared thirst for freedom. And just maybe, a little bit of chaos. Jonas crouched low behind a crate that smelled like burnt circuits and something suspiciously like old space cheese. So, breaking chains is easy. Breaking into Imperial prisons? Less so, but hey, that's what I get paid for. Or would get paid for, if anyone ever actually paid me. He glanced over at Kira, who was already scanning their surroundings with those sharp, long-eared instincts. You know, if we make it out of this alive, I'm thinking a vacation. Somewhere with less Imperial patrols and more beach. Kira's gaze never wavered from the approaching footsteps. A vacation sounds improbable, but if we survive, I'll consider it. Maybe somewhere with fresh air and fewer idiots shooting at us. Sounds like paradise, Jonas grinned, pulling a small device from his pocket, a plasma cutter jury rig from a dozen spare parts. Let's start with these chains. You might want to brace yourself for some sparks and questionable smells. She rolled her eyes. I've survived worse, mostly because I'm not as fragile as I look. Jonas chuckled. I was going to say, you don't look like someone who breaks easily. More like someone who breaks things. The cutter hissed and sparked as Jonas worked, the chains beginning to glow red hot. Kira shifted, her eyes flickering with something deeper. Memories Jonas couldn't yet touch. Shadows of battles fought in galaxies far older than his own. He cleared his throat awkwardly. You know, I read somewhere that vampire warriors have a thing for dramatic entrances. Ever tried one of those? She smirked, the corners of her mouth twitching despite herself. I'm saving that for when we actually escape. Just as the chains began to give way, a sharp clatter echoed down the corridor. Jonas froze, his heart pounding. Great, patrol's early. Or maybe they just hate my guts. Kira's eyes narrowed. Or maybe they smell weakness. Jonas shrugged. Yeah, I'm probably the weak link here. The door at the end of the hall hissed open, and two Imperial guards stepped in. Blasters ready. Jonas whispered, Okay, time for plan B. Spoiler, I didn't really have one. Kira's voice was calm, deadly. Step aside. Before Jonas could blink, she moved, fast and fluid, like a shadow come alive. One guard barely had time to react before Kira's hand was on his throat, a whisper of strength that bent metal and bone alike. The other guard aimed his blaster, but Kira's eyes flashed, and the shot missed by inches, vaporizing a panel on the wall. Jonas ducked behind the crate, watching as she dispatched the guards with brutal efficiency, her movements both graceful and terrifying. When the last guard crumpled, Kira turned back to Jonas, a hint of amusement in her voice. Not exactly subtle, but effective. Jonas grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. Subtle's overrated. Besides, you make deadly vampire warrior look good. She shook her head. I don't do this for style points. Good thing. I'm all out of those. With the chains finally broken, Kira flexed her wrists, the faint glow of bioenergetic veins pulsing beneath her skin. Jonas couldn't help but stare. Okay, so this whole vampire thing, what's the deal? You sparkle, you bleed, or do you just punch things really hard? She gave a dry laugh. None of the above. I'm a predator, not a myth. My kind survives on strength and speed, not fairy tales. Jonas nodded slowly. So basically a badass with attitude. Exactly. They moved quickly through the winding corridors, avoiding patrols with a mixture of luck, Kira's instincts, and Jonas's questionable stealth skills. At one point, Jonas tripped over a loose wire, cursing under his breath. Stealth is definitely not my strong suit. Kira smirked. You're lucky I'm faster than you. Yeah, just don't leave me behind when we take over the galaxy. They reached a maintenance hatch leading to the lower levels, a place where the shadows were thick and the hum of forgotten machines filled the air. Jonas hacked into the panel, fingers flying over the keypad. I swear, if this thing had a password like password 123, I'd retire right here. The panel beeped green, and the hatch creaked open. They slipped inside, descending into a labyrinth of pipes and vents. Jonas muttered, "Nothing like a crawl space to make you feel alive." Kira chuckled softly. "Keep talking, and I might reconsider saving you." Their banter eased the tension, turning a desperate escape into something oddly familiar, a partnership forged in fire and laughter. Jonas couldn't help but feel that beneath her warrior's armor and vampire's curse, Kira was as much a survivor as he was. Two unlikely souls bound by fate, hurtling through the cold expanse of space toward an uncertain future. As they crept through the tunnels, a flicker of light caught Kira's eye. She paused, fingers brushing a faded symbol etched into the wall, an ancient insignia, half forgotten but powerful. "This," she whispered, "is a reminder. My past is not just chains and captivity. It's a legacy." Jonas squinted. "Sounds heavy. Want me to lighten the mood with a joke?" She raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "Why don't aliens eat clowns? Because they taste funny." Kira laughed, the sound echoing softly in the dark. "That was terrible, but effective." They pressed on, unaware that the ripples of their escape were already spreading through the corridors of power. Somewhere in the shadows, watchers stirred, those who feared the awakening of a vampire warrior and the chaos she would bring. But for now, in the quiet hum of forgotten tunnels, two fugitives shared a moment of hope and humor. And that, Jonas thought, was worth more than all the stars in the sky. The corridor was quiet for a moment, which Jonas found suspicious. Quiet was rarely a good sign in places like this. "So, if silence is golden, then we're probably about to get hit with the platinum version of trouble, huh?" he muttered. Kira didn't answer right away, her long ears twitching like some kind of alien radar. "Keep moving. We're not alone." Jonas nodded, swallowing a joke about how being alone might have been preferable to Imperial patrols hunting them down like space rats. "Got it. Alone is overrated anyway." They crept forward, the shadows playing tricks on their eyes. Suddenly, the hum of machinery shifted, and a panel slid open on the wall, revealing a hidden alcove. "Great," Jonas whispered, "because everyone knows the best hiding spots in space stations are those suspiciously clean, well-lit holes." Kira stepped inside, inspecting a console embedded in the wall. "This is an access node for the station's security grid. We can disable the patrol drones from here." Jonas raised an eyebrow. "You mean we get to mess with Imperial tech without getting vaporized? Now that's my kind of fun." She smirked. "Don't celebrate just yet. It won't be easy." As Kira connected her wrist implant to the console, Jonas peeked out into the corridor, catching sight of glowing red sensors sweeping slowly back and forth. "Looks like the patrols upgraded from blasters to eyeball lasers. I'm not sure if I'm more scared of the patrols or the station's sense of paranoia." Kira chuckled. "Paranoia's a survival skill around here." Jonas's fingers drummed nervously against the wall. "Survival skill? I thought running like hell was a survival skill." She narrowed her eyes, her voice low. "That too." The console flickered as Kira worked through layers of encryption, her fingers moving with practiced precision. Jonas watched, fascinated by the way her long ears caught every sound, every subtle shift in the station's electronic heartbeat. "You really are more than just a vampire warrior, huh? You're a hacker too?" She shot him a sideways glance. "I have to be. Strength alone won't get you through this." Jonas grinned. "Multi-talented. I'm impressed. I once tried hacking a vending machine and ended up ordering 47 cans of fizzy water. Not exactly heroic." Kira laughed softly, the sound a rare and welcome warmth in the cold, sterile alcove. "At least you didn't get caught." "Barely," Jonas admitted, "though the machine still owes me a refund." Suddenly, the console beeped, and the patrol drone's red lights flickered and faded. "That's our cue," Kira said, retracting her wrist implant. "The patrols are blind for now, but it won't last." Jonas grabbed her arm. "Blind patrols means we run. Or do we sneak? Because I'm really good at running." She smiled, a fierce glint in her eyes. "Running it is. But this time we run with purpose." They dashed into the maze of corridors, adrenaline sharpening every sense. Jonas stumbled over loose cables, swearing under his breath. I'm starting to think these stations are designed by sadists. Kira didn't laugh. They probably are. Their path led them to the station's central hub, a vast chamber filled with consoles, holographic maps, and the distant hum of the core reactor. Jonas stopped, eyes wide. Whoa, this place looks like the brain of a starship. You sure this isn't a secret alien warship disguised as a prison? Kira shook her head. No disguise. This is the heart of their operations. Control this, and we control the station. Jonas looked at the glowing holograms, some depicting star systems, others flashing warnings in alien scripts. So what's the plan? Because I'm getting way out of my depth here. She stepped forward, fingers brushing a console. We send a message. A broadcast to the outer colonies. The Empire needs to know there's resistance, and that their prized slave is anything but powerless. Jonas raised an eyebrow. Broadcast? Like a space soap opera teaser? Tune in next week for more vampire warrior escapades? Kira smiled. If it gets people talking, why not? As she prepared the transmission, alarms suddenly blared through the station. Guess they found out about the hacking, Jonas quipped. Kira's expression hardened. They've sent reinforcements. We don't have much time. Jonas glanced around frantically. So, we fight, run, or negotiate our way out of this? Kira cocked her head. Negotiation with Imperial soldiers usually ends with one of us in chains. I vote fight, then run. Jonas grinned, hefting a plasma pistol he'd picked up earlier. I'm not the best shot, but I make up for it with enthusiasm. She laughed, drawing a blade that shimmered with an unnatural glow. Then let's give them a show. The battle was sudden and chaotic, blaster fire echoing off the metal walls. Jonas dodged clumsily, firing wildly but managing to keep the soldiers at bay. Kira moved with lethal grace, her blade cutting through the air, slicing through armor and threats alike. Hey, watch the upholstery, Jonas shouted as a blast sent sparks flying near him. Kira smirked. Try to keep up. Amid the chaos, Jonas felt a strange thrill, the kind that only comes from standing on the edge of disaster and laughing in its face. You know, I always thought being a space outlaw would be glamorous. Turns out it's mostly dodging laser bolts and making bad jokes. She nodded, eyes fierce yet amused. Glamour is overrated. Survival isn't. When the last guard fell, silence returned, heavy but victorious. Jonas slumped against a console, panting. So, does this mean we're officially rebels now? Because I'm terrible at paperwork. Kira's eyes met his, serious but kind. We're more than rebels. We're the beginning of something new. Jonas smiled despite himself. Well, if this is the start of a galactic revolution, I hope it involves fewer chains and more vacation days. She laughed softly. We'll see. And as the broadcast signal pulsed through the stars, a message of hope and defiance echoed across the galaxy. The slave was no longer silent. The warrior was awake, and a new alliance was forged in the fires of rebellion. Jonas stared at the cracked holoscreen flickering in front of them. So, we sent the Empire a little, hello, we're here and we're mad message. Any chance they'll just shrug and go back to their paperwork? He rubbed his hands together. Because I'm really not in the mood for another round of Imperial fun. Kira smirked, brushing a strand of her yellow hair behind one of those long, pointed ears. They never shrug, Jonas. They escalate. It's their favorite hobby. Right after inventory audits. Jonas groaned. Imperial bureaucracy and tyranny, 2 peas in a pod. At least one comes with coffee breaks. She tapped the console again, eyes scanning the incoming data streams. Good news is the message has sparked interest in the outer colonies. People are watching. The Empire's grip isn't as tight as it thinks. Jonas grinned. So we're celebrities now? I always knew my terrible jokes would pay off. Kira laughed softly. Fame has its perks. Mostly enemies, but still. Suddenly, a sharp alarm pierced the calm. Incoming transmission, the console announced. Jonas raised an eyebrow. From who? The Empire, I hope. I like a good welcome back to misery greeting. Kira's expression darkened. Not quite. It's, unexpected. The screen flickered to life, revealing a shadowed figure cloaked in a shimmering field of shifting colors. "Kira," the voice said, smooth and measured. "I've been looking for you." Jonas peeked at the screen. "Great. Someone else who's got your number. I hope it's not a telemarketer." The figure stepped forward, revealing a face both alien and human, a blend of familiar and foreign. "I am Saren, once a warrior like you, now something else." Kira's eyes narrowed. "What do you want, Saren?" "To warn you, the Empire is moving faster than you realize. Your broadcast has lit a fire, but it has also called the Hunters." Jonas muttered, "Hunters? Sounds like a bad space soap, or maybe a space hunting reality show." "Who will survive the Imperial Purge?" Kira ignored him. "Tell me more." Saren's voice dropped to a whisper. "There is an artifact, ancient, powerful. The Empire seeks it to control not just worlds, but time itself." Jonas blinked. "Time control? So basically, the ultimate cheat code?" Saren nodded. "Exactly. If they succeed, no rebellion will stand. No alliance will survive. You must find it first." Kira's jaw tightened. "Where is it?" "That is the secret I carry. But I can help you find it, if you trust me." Jonas raised his hands dramatically. "Trust is hard to come by when everyone wants to kill you or enslave you. But hey, I'm an optimist." Kira studied Saren carefully, weighing the offer. "Fine, but one wrong move, and I'll make sure your name is the last thing you remember." Saren smiled, faint but genuine. "Understood." As the transmission ended, Jonas rubbed his temples. "So now we're on a treasure hunt across the galaxy, because apparently simple escapes are boring." Kira chuckled. "Adventure suits you." Jonas groaned. "Suit me? I barely fit into my own clothes." They set course for the coordinates Saren had provided, a remote system rumored to hide ruins older than the Empire itself. "I hope these ruins have less security than that last station," Jonas muttered. Kira smiled. "You'll have plenty of time to practice your stealth." Jonas groaned again. "At this rate, I'll need a new nickname. How about Clumsy Ghost?" She laughed. "Fits you." As their ship sped through hyperspace, a quiet moment settled between them. Jonas glanced at Kira, her expression resolute yet tinged with something softer. "You ever think about what comes after all this? After fighting, running, hiding?" She looked out the viewport, stars stretching into streaks. "Freedom. For me, that means more than just escaping chains. It means reclaiming who I am." Jonas nodded slowly. "And for me? I think it means finding a reason to stay, not just run." Kira turned to him, a smile tugging at her lips. "Then maybe we're both looking for the same thing." He grinned. "Great, because I'm terrible at running alone." She reached out, clasping his hand briefly. "Then let's stop running." Jonas looked at her, surprised but hopeful. "Wow, deep for a vampire warrior." She shrugged. "Even warriors have soft spots." Their laughter filled the cockpit as stars sped past, carrying them toward unknown dangers and unexpected alliances. Somewhere out there, the Empire's shadow loomed large. But so did the spark of rebellion, and with it, the promise that even the darkest nights could be broken by light, and a well-timed bad joke. The artifact pulsed softly in Kira's hands, its ancient energy humming through the cramped cabin. Jonas squinted at it like it was some kind of alien fruit. "So what exactly does this thing do? Besides glowing and making us feel like we're in a low-budget sci-fi flick?" Kira smiled, her long ears twitching slightly. "It controls time, sort of. Not like a time machine, more like a dimmer switch for moments. You can slow things down, speed them up, but not rewrite history." Jonas raised an eyebrow. "Dimmer switch, huh? So it's like the universe's weirdest remote control?" "Something like that," she said, eyes serious. "And in the wrong hands, it could mean endless oppression. The Empire would never just rule. They'd trap everyone in their perfect nightmare forever." Jonas rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "So we've got to keep this from the Empire. Again. What a shocker." Kira laughed softly. "I know. But this time, we have allies. The colonies are waking up, inspired by what we started." Jonas grinned. "Look at us, accidental heroes with a knack for trouble." Their ship shook suddenly. Alarms blared. Imperial fighter, Jonas muttered, scrambling to the controls. And they brought the fireworks. Kira's eyes narrowed. Ready to dance? Jonas smirked. I hope your vampire reflexes come with a dance card. The dogfight was chaotic, lasers crisscrossing the void outside like cosmic fireworks. Jonas piloted with surprising skill, while Kira's blades shimmered as she defended the ship's core systems during a boarding attempt. Hey, Empire scum! Ever heard of personal space? One of the boarding drones miscalculated, stumbling into the force field and short-circuiting spectacularly. Jonas gave a thumbs up. That's one less bad guy. Kira parried another attacker. We're not out of this yet. Hold on. After a tense skirmish, the Imperial ships retreated, their signals scrambled by a mysterious cloaked vessel appearing on the sensors. Jonas groaned. Great. More friends or more foes? The cloaked ship docked, and out stepped Saren, the warrior from before, looking a bit less mysterious and a lot more like trouble. I've come to help, Saren said, holding out a data chip. This contains coordinates to the Empire's command nexus. Kira took the chip cautiously. Why help us now? Saren's eyes gleamed. Because I believe in your cause, and because I'm tired of running alone. Jonas snorted. See? Everyone loves a good reunion tour. Together, the three plotted their final strike against the Empire's heart, combining the artifact's power with the colony's uprising and the element of surprise. The battle was fierce and relentless, but every move was calculated, every risk measured. In the heat of the fight, Jonas found himself face to face with an Imperial commander, their blasters pointed at each other. Jonas joked through clenched teeth, You ever consider a career change? I hear space janitors get decent benefits. The commander sneered, but before the shot could fire, Kira appeared, her blade flashing. Time's up, she said. When the dust settled, the Empire's grip on the galaxy was broken, the command nexus destroyed, and freedom rippled across the stars. Kira stood amid the wreckage, the artifact safely sealed away, its power respected but no longer a threat. Jonas looked at her, a smile tugging at his lips. So, what's next? Galactic peace? Retirement on a beach planet? Kira shook her head, laughing softly. Nope. I think we've earned some rest, and maybe a few less explosions. Jonas chuckled. I could get used to that. As they prepared to leave the battlefield behind, Kira felt a new strength within. A warrior no longer bound by chains, a leader ready to shape the future. Jonas had changed too, from a reluctant sidekick into a partner who believed in something greater. They glanced at each other, the unspoken promise clear. Whatever came next, they would face it together, their alliance forged in fire and humor, their destinies forever intertwined. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, a galaxy breathed a little easier, knowing its unlikely heroes had awakened.